Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with this plight?
Aha!
Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at canva.com.
Right, let's talk about defense. Where do you want to start with this week, Shane?
I can lead us off here. Let's talk about Nakobe Dean. I don't have film for this one. I did a Nakobe Dean player spotlight video for Patreon. So again, every week we let our members vote on a player, and Eric or I go and watch every snap they played and just talk about what we saw. And so I went through the entire defensive film watching only Nakobe Dean, and Nakobe Dean's exactly what he was last year, and that's impressive for a guy coming off of that injury. I had serious concerns if he would ever be able to recapture that athleticism, but Nakobe Dean downhill in the run game when he's kept clean is tremendous. He can simply shoot gaps that Jihad Campbell cannot. And in pass coverage, he's fine. I think Campbell's probably a little better than him in pass coverage. They both struggle if they're not kept clean in the run game. Like, Nakobe Dean can't stack and shed blocks very well, but there were a few plays this game where he just triggered downhill and blew up run plays in a way that you're not getting from Jihad Campbell. So the Eagles have a conundrum. In this game, they played Nakobe Dean as the inside linebacker with Jihad Campbell as an edge rusher on all 23 snaps of base defense. By the way, Campbell lined up as a defensive lineman 28 times, but he only rushed the passer 3 times. So they're not rushing him, but they were lining him up on the edge. Nakobe Dean also played 8 snaps of nickel when they took Campbell off the field near the end of the game. And so I don't know if that's wow, Nakobe Dean is playing better than we thought he was going to, so we're going to put him out there, or if that was a planned thing. I just really noticed it near the end of the game. So I don't know what the Eagles are going to do here, and it's a great problem to have, but Nakobe Dean is the better player right now. He's a better player than Jihad Campbell, and for a team that wants to win now, that is important. But also, Nakobe Dean is on the last year of his deal and in all likelihood is gone next year. And it's not like Jihad Campbell is playing bad. Jihad Campbell was the odds-on favorite going into Week 7 to win Defensive Rookie of the Year at plus 200. He's played well. And so maybe you work out a rotation where it's like we situationally play Dean on rundowns and we play Campbell on what we think are passing downs. But then you think about Campbell. Early in the year, I was pointing out how bad he was against the run, and I've pointed out improvements over the last few weeks. You strip away that development opportunity for him if you're just protecting him from run situations. So I would assume the Eagles are going to try to rotate those guys. What I really don't want them to do, though, is to continue to use Campbell as an edge rusher. I would rather see Campbell just be a backup linebacker that doesn't play than them try to force him into being an edge, because I think that will tank his development tremendously. And you mentioned, Azeez Ojulari was injured in this game, and so maybe that's got to do with why they played Campbell on the edge so much. But if they want to do the Dean on the field in base as a linebacker, I would rather them just take Campbell off than continually kick him down to an edge rusher. So I'm not sure how they're going to handle that. I do trust Vic Fangio implicitly, but this is kind of the age-old, we got to balance development and win now and figure out how that all plays out. So Nakobe Dean, I thought, looked really good this week. I just don't know what to make of how they're going to handle this linebacker situation.
Yeah, see, my other points are quick, so we'll spend a little bit of time on this because I think it's the most interesting part of the defense all week, you'd say, the most interesting discussion. Firstly, Vic Fangio doesn't think he's an edge either. Listen to any Vic Fangio, press conference ever. He clearly doesn't think he's an edge defender. Look at where he's played him this year. Yes, he can rotate to edge. I couldn't believe this when I looked it up, but I looked up the numbers, and I know I commented on it in the Patreon Discord. He rushed the passer 3 times this game, Jahar Campbell. Like, that's bizarre. He played edge. Nakobe Dean rushed a quarterback 3 times. Zach Bourne rushed a quarterback 7 times. So basically, they're saying he does not rush the quarterback. He played edge on like a significant amount of snaps and rushed 3 times. How many times have you seen an edge defender drop into coverage that much? He dropped into coverage 40 times in this game. Zach Bourne was 42, and Zach Bourne played 9 more snaps. I take a little bit of disagreement actually with you in that Dean being better than Campbell. I guess it defines on what your priorities are, like how you view defense and sort of who you want. I think Campbell is definitely better in coverage, and for me, that's a big win. I think there's a very legitimate argument you could play Dean on first down and play Campbell on like second and long and every third down. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think what they did this week is sustainable. Personally, he's not an edge. I don't think can you really play with an edge who rushes the quarterback 3 times? And yes, it gives you versatility schematically, was what I was trying to say, because obviously you don't know who's coming and who's dropping, but to an extent you do know who's coming and dropping. You know Campbell's not coming because he's done it 3 times this week. So unless they significantly line him up, like I guess the point where personally I'd stick a tight end on him. If I was an opposing team, I would say 5 offensive linemen, you take the other 4 tight ends, stand to block him if he rushes.
Well, we've seen tight ends stonewall him, so
yes, he doesn't have a great like ability to rush the quarterback yet. He just doesn't. If you look at his pass rushing numbers this year, they're extremely low because he's not a great pass rusher. He's very good in coverage. That's his game. So, like, I think I'm looking at his PFF numbers here. He's rushed a quarterback 41 times this year. Like, that's not a lot. For a guy who's played a lot of snaps this year, they don't think he can do it very much. I know you could say, well, that's because he's great in coverage. Well, so is Zach Bourne, and Zach Bourne still rushes the quarterback more than he does. And Zach Bourne is even better in coverage. So I think it's really interesting. Brandon Graham's coming back. Nolan Smith's going to be back. You're not going to tell me he's going to keep Nolan Smith off the field and Brandon Graham on the field playing edge. I imagine it will just be a bit of a rotation. I think right now what Fangio's good at is he wants the best players on the field most of the time. And there's not many lineups the Eagles can put out there where Zach Bourne, Nakobe Dean, and Jahar Campbell aren't the best 11 players. So he's trying to make it work. But I'm not convinced it's going to be a consistent part of their defense. I think it might be a little bit more of a timeshare, or maybe a little bit more of like early downs we see Nakobe Dean, late downs we see Campbell. That's just how I feel about it anyway. And it might be, as you said, that they want to play Dean more because they want to win now. But I think Campbell's been very good and he's a rookie, and I would try and develop him more, and I'd want to keep him in a rhythm every single week. But that is obviously the most interesting thing to look out for next week. I also, by the way, have concerns about Campbell setting the edge as an edge defender. If you think he lacks physicality as an off-ball linebacker, setting the edge is pretty tough as well. You've got to take on pulling guards sometimes. That's not the way Campbell plays. So I'm not sure I see him as an edge as much as the Eagles did this week.
Yeah, totally agree with all of that. Let's get to your first point, Jonny. Where did you want to go?
That is a great question because I completely forgot it was my point because I assume that was it. Right, let's talk about
you are
things.
good at saying let's be quick this week and then spending more time on my point than I did.
But there was good stuff this week. It's not like we're doing the same old, oh, look, 2x2. Look, they don't run anywhere. Like, great. I did have the 15,000th time. My 3 points on D are quick, so I'll get the quick ones out of the way first as well. I just wanted to talk very briefly. I thought the Eagles' run defense was a lot better this week. It wasn't perfect, and they had some trouble setting the edge again, but the Vikings are a sort of grind out run game, and the Eagles had quite a few nice stops. And I thought basically the biggest reason why was Jordan Davis, massively, and I thought Ajomo showed up as well against the run in this one. And I thought I'd just show one play, just play 4, just for those of you watching, if you want to see a specific play. I'm not breaking down anything in particular, but just watch how stout Davis was at the point of attack. The Eagles continue to play Carter, Davis, and Ajomo a hell of a lot of snaps. And I think Davis has his up and down weeks where maybe fatigue is an issue. But I think this week, after a long bye, we saw the good Jordan Davis again. My only hope is that he doesn't get worn down because he's playing so many snaps. But this will be a real test this week because they got bullied by the Giants up front last week. And I hope this is a sign that maybe Jordan Davis can lead a fight back this week against the Giants. So my first point, short and sweet, I thought Rundy was better. I thought gap fits were better than last week, but I thought the biggest difference was just they won up front. And last week they didn't win up front. And sometimes football is simple in that way.
Yeah. Eagles need to go get another defensive tackle so they can work this rotation a little bit more and so they can keep Byron Young off the field. But, okay. I want to talk about, this will be quick too, but just a callback to our last film show when I spoke about how the Eagles were defending scrape routes on RPOs. And so I want to show the two examples. And I think I showed both of these last week, but how the tight end for the Giants would come across and the Eagles would go over the top of him and give Jackson Dart room to run. And so there you see Azeez Ojulari doing it. Now we've got Zadarius Smith, may he rest in peace, doing it on the other side. And I specifically spoke about last week, the way you want to defend that is they're trying to read when that guy comes across the formation. If you go over the top of him, the quarterback is going to pull the ball and roll and run. If you go underneath him, they're going to hand it to the running back. And so my solution is just run through him. Complicate that read. You knock that guy off of his route if it's a run. You knock him off his ability to block if he's just blocking. Either way, you're taking him out of the play. Like a read option like this is specifically designed to take you out of the play as the read defender, so make sure you take somebody out of it with you. And Jalix Hunt here at the top of the screen does exactly that here. And when I saw this happen live, I came up out of my seat because just run through the guy. Like, see, that's supposed to be a pass. And you notice that, like, you just can't make the pass now because he's coming across. Boom, we hit you. Now everything's just thrown off. And so I just wanted to shout that out because it's something I talked about last week. And we saw it this week from Jalix Hunt. So I was pretty excited to see that.
Yeah, that's been something the Eagles' edges don't do very well. I wasn't going to talk about him now, but let's... No, actually, I won't. I'll save him for the end. Let's end on a positive. The other point I wanted to make was the Eagles have like 3 plays every week where communication isn't very good in the back end, and they're still learning. And I actually wanted to get your take on this. So I did my usual, Shane, play one of my film thread. When I stare at a play 100 times and I go insane, I message my resident Eagles film guys, which many of you know who they are from mentioning, and they also disagreed on this one. So I'm interested to see what you think. It looks like cover 8 and they're playing like cover 2 to the top of the screen. I have a problem with Quinyon Mitchell in, I don't know how to describe this. When he's a flat defender, I think he gives you nothing if it's not obvious. And I'm not criticizing Quinyon here. It's just a takeaway. Because if you pause it now, Shane, right? Just pause it in pause it in 1 second, right? Who is Quinyon Mitchell covering on this play?
Nobody.
He's not covering flat because there's a flat defender. He's not covering deep because there's technically a deep defender. There's 2 men on his side of the field running routes. So I don't know what he's meant to do, but I can tell you now, Vic Fangio is not saying, you know what you should do is cover no one. So there is a disconnect between Nakobe. Unfortunately, he's always involved in these. I think Nakobe spends too long on the crossing route before getting back outside if he's a cover 2. But to be fair, I think this is a really good play call, by the way, to target this like split safety, cover 6, cover 8 type of coverage. And we saw the Rams run a very similar play, didn't we? Like a tight end leak a few weeks ago and they caught the Eagles out. This is like a similar style of play, the post and then the wheel from the same side of the field. But I couldn't decide who was at fault. But I just looked at Quinyon and I was like, who are you covering? You clearly don't need to cover the flat guy because you can see Zach Bourne is right in front of you, driving on the flat receiver. So who are you actually covering on this play? And this was one play. And before I move on to the second one, just quickly, and this is why I mean that communication. I don't know exactly who's at fault, but Nakobe and Quinyon have got to do a better job communicating what's going on there. But did you have any thoughts on this one, just really quickly?
I think Quinyon should stay with this deep route.
See, that's what I thought. One of the film guys agreed, and one of them didn't, which is always good fun, isn't it?
As far as I know, when you're running, I'm going to call it cover 6 because I hate calling it cover 8. It's just quarter, half, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
On the half side of the field, the corner should be in a squat technique, which I've always been taught means that you are funneling number one inside, and you do not come to the flat unless the ball goes there. So he should be syncing with Addison here, and only if the ball is thrown to the flat should he rally to the flat. Like, you're essentially begging them to throw to the flat because odds are there's a linebacker there unoccupied, which there is, that can take it. So to me, Quinyon should not allow this guy behind him. He should be in position to make a play, and he should only break to the flat if the ball is thrown there. But also, no idea what Makuba's doing. Like, if he's the half-field defender here, he's got to be able to be over the top of both of these, and that's tough, but I don't know. But yeah, I would say the primary offender there is Quinyon. Who agreed with me, Sean or Honest NFL?
Honest was similar to both of us.
Okay.
Sean was a bit more on the design rather than blaming Quinyon, and we had a good chat, and my argument was still just can't see Fangio saying, like, to me, he's just doing nothing. And It's not the first time, is it? We've had these plays where he doesn't know if to go deep or go short, and you end up, like, you're not covering anyone. You're literally not covering anyone. And I wanted to just mention communication. I meant to start this point by saying a lovely little intro by saying, like, Shane, if there was one word you could use to describe Fangio's defense when it's good, what would you say? And I was hoping you'd say communication.
Communication.
Aha, there you go, genius. And do you want to see a really good example, Shane, of not communicating very well? It is play. Dun, 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 as I scroll through play 8. And this is proper bad communication. Again, don't know whose fault it is, but I can tell you right now, they run a very simple motion here. Pre-snap, Nakobe Dean says, someone go with him. And who goes with him, Shane? No one. So if you pause this, and the Eagles got away with one here big time, just after the snap, just like when they're into their roots, like a little bit further, like now, the Eagles have 3 over 1. You could argue 4 over 1. And 2 over 3. Fangio's whole thing is being +1 in coverage. That is a disaster. And if Wentz throws that, and thank God Zach Bourne is such a good pass rusher, man. Zach Bourne is a ridiculously strong pass rusher. Thank God he shoves the offensive guard back into Wentz's lap, because otherwise Wentz throws his vertically. And this should be a touchdown. That's gone. Jalen Nader's gone. And at some point, the Eagles are going to get caught by this lack of communication, because it's happening every week. There's like 3 or 4 plays where I'm like, there's a mistake being made in the secondary.
Who
is
he trying to push out there? Because Zach Vaughn's
that's what's
blitzing.
Really odd.
Is he trying to push Campbell out there?
I guessed Campbell, but even if Campbell runs out there, Shane, they're still screwed.
Yeah.
If Campbell runs out there, they're 3-on-3, and then they still don't really want to live in a 3-on-3 world. I think they only rushed. Did they rush 4 or 5 on this one? Is this like a fire zone? Let's have a look. No, see, they rush 4. There is no way if they rush 4, they want to be 3 over 3. No way. They need to be 4 over 3. So there should be 2 extra defenders over there. Maybe Dean, even, you know what I'm saying? Even if Campbell's there, it's still wrong. Like, I can tell you now, Vic Fangio didn't draw it up like that. And there's just a couple of plays when every week I think this is going to catch him out. That was the worst one I've seen on film in a while, but I thought I'd mention it.
It feels like
as an issue.
DeGene should be running with this. Like,
yeah, I agree.
So already they have DeGene. So you get into how do you define the passing strength?
I hate that stuff, especially when
the Eagles are saying the top of the screen because that's where their nickel is, because it's 2 wide receivers, but there's technically 3 threats to the bottom.
Yeah,
but one of them's a running back and a tight end.
They're possibly wrong pre-snap as well.
But
it's possibly an issue pre-snap.
It could be, but it's valid. Some teams will do this. They will consider the 2 wide receivers to be the strength over a wide receiver, tight end, running back.
If you think about it, though,
that's
Shane,
valid.
Bourne blitzes, right? If they run just a simple. If they don't do any motion at all, they just run 3 routes on the right-hand side, the running back drops out. Campbell's got to get all the way across from middle of the field, and they're still only 3 over 3. So it's a really weird one.
Yeah.
Just looks wrong to me. Anyway, let's move on before we pick
there's the
play.
potential they're wrong pre-snap, but I definitely think DeGene should be following, because it clearly becomes the passing strength when there's 4 guys here and you didn't follow. So I don't know.
It's odd.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, you mentioned Andrew Nakobe. Let's talk Andrew Nakobe. He is my last point. I've got 4 plays I'll show of his. A couple are good, a couple are really bad, and that's kind of what you get with Makuba. He has definitely struggled with consistency, but on this one, I think he does a really good job of picking up this crossing route. And so you can sort of see right here, there's 2 guys running at him, right? There's a guy running vertically, and there's a crosser coming. And I think he rightly decides here that Cooper DeJean has this guy, but there is nobody to pick up this crosser. And so he kind of leaves Cooper DeJean one-on-one and undercuts this crosser, and Wentz throws it out of the back of the end zone. I thought that was a really good heads-up play. Maybe freelancing a little bit there, but in a way that makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, we get the interception, which thank you, Carson Wentz, for being a knucklehead. But I think he does a good job falling back under this and making that catch. And so, good start to the game. But then we get into some where we struggle. And this is the play you just showed. And yeah, there's some coverage things going on here. And at the end of the day, you have to make this tackle. Like, if you make this tackle,
the technique is rough.
It's going to be 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. If you miss the tackle, but you force him back inside where you have help, it's probably going to be a first down. But it's certainly not going to be this kind of a gain. And that's just a knucklehead play. You have got to tackle better than that. And then this is another one, and this one's tough, but he's responsible for this tight end that motions across. And you can tell he thinks this is a run play. He reads this slow, and he leaves his guy open, lets him get out to the flat. And that happens. But there was another play I put on Twitter that's not in this little montage of just the difference in how he and Zach Bond trigger against the run because they're lined up about the same
on
level.
The touchdown to Mason, yeah.
Yeah, on the Wildcat snap. And yes, they're keying on different things. And yes, Zach Bond's run instincts are elite, and I'm not arguing. It was honestly, that play was less about Makuba bad and more about Bond really good.
Yeah.
But Makuba has struggled with consistency, and he's a rookie, that bounced around colleges and positions. I mean, he went from being a nickel at Clemson to a post safety at Texas to a split field safety in Vic Fangio's scheme. And so it's a lot of different things. And he certainly has ability. He's got a lot of raw athletic ability, but he really needs to stop busting coverages at times, which he didn't have any egregious busts in this one. And he's got to tackle better. And I think both of those things can happen. I'm more concerned about the tackling because you would expect the mental reps just to happen over time. But the Eagles really need him to improve down the stretch. And I think there's a very good chance that he will, because again, he's a rookie that's getting his feet under him. But I think the secondary takes a step just simply with Makuba improving if he's able to figure that out.
Yeah, man. Brother Clips commented. Brother Clips, get in the Discord. We talk about Makuba a lot. I was thinking this off air, actually. Off air, just generally. Seeing as I'm only on air for an hour a week. I was thinking this a couple of days ago, that if Makuba was like a 4th round pick, we'd treat him very differently this year. And the fact is, he, in my opinion, most rankings did not have him as a 2nd round talent. I think the Eagles reached. I didn't have him as a 2nd round talent. If you just literally type in his name and type in pre-draft scouting report and click on most places where they rank him, he was a 3rd to maybe 4th round pick, right? Most places, would you agree? And therefore we treat him differently because of where the Eagles picked him. And it's almost not fair. He's playing way more than Jadix Hunt did last year. Way more. Jadix Hunt played about 7 snaps in the first 7 weeks of the season. And Jadix Hunt was picked in the 3rd round. So I think some of it is like expectation because of where the Eagles drafted him. And that's not his fault. So at some point, we've got to be a little bit careful where asking the player to be something he's not. He didn't tackle well in college. He's very undersized. Yes, the highlight reels are great because he's smashed around people, but that was never sustainable. How many huge hits have you seen this year where he's rocked somebody? Not many. It was never going to be like it was in college. The guys are too big. So I feel a little bit for him because I think if he was a 3rd round pick, would have been like, oh, it's cool he's starting. And instead, because he was a 2nd round pick and because there were guys like Watts and stuff in this year's draft class, Iman Wuri's playing quite well as well. I think it just made that idea that maybe he's not the right guy, but I do feel a little bit bad for him because I think he was overdrafted personally.
He was mid third round on the consensus big board.
There you go. And I think there is a difference, isn't there? Even though it's only like 15, 16 picks, there is a difference how you view a second round pick to a third round pick. Even if he was the very end of the second round, you still just hear second round pick, don't you? And you expect starting player second round. Right, let's finish with the final play, Shane. Can you show Hunt's pick 6 for me? I believe it is in my film thread somewhere, play 5. Most of you have probably seen this play broken down already, so I don't need to go into huge detail in it. I think just a really cool thing is firstly, how they show man coverage, obviously pre-snap with Cooper DeJean running across the formation. And if you just pause it here, Shane, just pre-snap, the benefit of playing Campbell edge, not that he rushes here, and very, very simply, my favorite, I guess, part of this is there's only one linebacker. So when you have a 5-man front, you have one linebacker. Therefore, Carson Wentz knows in his head, if Zach Bourne comes, I'm throwing a hot route. And I've spoken of late about the danger of throwing hot routes against, funny enough, guys like Flores, which is quite ironic because Wentz must see this in practice all the time. But when you blitz, and as a quarterback, you see a blitz, the worrying thing about hot routes is they're just instinctive sometimes. That's why I don't mind it when the Eagles go down the field sometimes against pressure, because it's an instinctive thing. Right, I've seen him blitzed. What am I taught to do? Linebacker blitzes, no one in the middle of the field, throw the quick slant, inside leverage. I think it's Jefferson on Nakobe. I just don't think he sees him. And it's just a very, very clever disguised by Fangio. It's not genius. It's not like, oh, Vic Fangio, oh my God, he's disguising. He's just dropping an edge defender, really. Yes, he's dropping 2 edge defenders. The Eagles like to do this already. As I said, I'm almost not seeing Campbell as an edge anyway. So to me, that's almost like dropping one and rushing one. I think actually the really cool part about this play, Shane, which I don't think he spoke about enough, is how good the actual play by Hunt is. Not the run back. The pick's actually really good. And remember when we drafted him, I said this in the offseason, I was shocked the Eagles didn't use him in coverage more. For me, that was the whole appeal of Jalex Hunt. So I'm really glad to see him doing this, which is really cool. And I think they need to do this more. I see Hunt, and I always have seen him, as a versatile chess piece, not just a pass rusher. And this is the kind of stuff that I've wanted to see for a while. He's dropped into coverage a little bit more of late. He was in coverage 6 times in this game, 10 times a few weeks ago against Tampa Bay. Whereas last year, he basically dropped into coverage the exact same as any other edge rusher. Just to give you very quickly before we finish the numbers, last year he dropped into coverage 18 times. This year he's dropped into coverage 33 times already. And he's played less snaps. So basically the Eagles are asking him to do more in coverage, and I think that's how he should be used. This is a really, really good play.
Yeah, I have seen Quinyon Mitchell drop 6 easier interceptions than this one. So, yeah, it's a really good play by him. Also, low-key, my favorite thing about this play is watch Josh Uche here. So many times you're going to see this guy just destroy this pursuer and get flagged and turn. I love the restraint he has to not get a penalty here. Yes, he gets in the way, but he gets in the way and turns his back just to shield him off instead of trying to destroy him. That is such an unselfish and heads-up move by a guy that doesn't play a whole lot, but just pursuing the play from the backside, getting in the way. Incredible stuff there. Also, just want to mention, I don't know what Campbell thinks he's actually taking away here. I guess he's probably in coverage on the running back, maybe, but
maybe
he doesn't really sink over a potential slant window. But I guess it's man coverage. He's got it. Maybe he and Hunt are like kind of tag teaming the running back, whichever way he goes, and that's why. But Campbell, I noticed, doesn't really fall into any sort of a slant window there. But anyways, yeah, I loved Uche's block there. So
right,
was that your last point?
Shane. We've done over an hour. Again, we've actually been good of late being quicker. But to be fair, we said this off air, this is actually a good thing this week because there was different stuff to talk about. So we had the Campbell, the Dean discussion, the scrambled drills, the play action. There was actually new stuff to watch, which makes our job a lot more interesting because some of the last weeks have been god-awful. to watch.
Yeah, for sure. So
Right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, if you guys want more content from us, again, be sure you check out our Patreon. Me, Jonny, and Eric run that together. Patreon.com/Eagles Film Room. I have a Nakobe Dean player spotlight up, about 30 minutes long, like a 40 to 45 minute long pass game review. I believe Eric will have his matchup. No, he wasn't going to do that. He was doing something different this week because it's the Giants again. And actually, you were too. You weren't doing the big preview
I'm
thing.
going to go back tomorrow, and just literally go and watch every single Jackson Dart rep. So if you want to come join me and watch every single Jackson Dart rep, come join Patreon and we can take a look. I'm looking forward to it. It's nice when you get to look at other players around the league as well, see what other teams are doing. So, we're going to get into it tomorrow.
All right, so there you go, guys. You can go check that out. A free 1-week trial of any tier to check out the content. The Discord alone is worth the price of admission. But that is going to do it for this one. So thank you guys for joining us here live. Those of you listening on podcast platforms later, we appreciate you guys too. 5-star ratings and reviews help us get this content out there to more people, and so we certainly appreciate that. But for now, that is it. We'll catch you guys next week to break down the Eagles' revenge game against the New York Giants.